Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Fascinating conference so far. I've only had 2 speakers, but as I've been sitting there, I've just been reflecting on the role of salmon in particular in my own life. And I'm by no means atypical, but last week we were down in Galloway with Nature Scott, our board and senior leadership, talking to communities and businesses about a possibility of a national park, and salmon came up time and time again as part of the conversation. Next week, I'm off to the Outer Hebrides, the Western Isles, to look at various things, but including predator control of mink. And I know when I'm out there, there'll be a lot of talk about wild salmon, whether it's to do with mink, whether it's to do with the fish farming sector. And then I was also reflecting on my own sort of personal life, as it were. I mean, what part does salmon play? Because I don't fish, but I did bring my children up on the banks of the Spey, a tributary of the Spey. And I remember vividly when they were little, hauling them across a snow-covered field to look at salmon in the Cromdale Burn, fighting its way up. And I don't know about that, they've probably forgotten, but for me, that was a very important memory, as it were, of bringing children up in rural Scotland, excited by the wildlife around them and the important part salmon plays. So I just reflected on that because that was what was really coming to mind as I was listening. But anyway, back to my script, as it were. So I was going to talk a little bit about restoring Scotland's biodiversity, and it very much adds, I think, to the comments of the First Minister already, because I wanted to start with the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy and Delivery Plan that were published in November. We've already heard why that's so important, but for me, it's really that we've done a lot of work for years on biodiversity, but it's clearly not been enough. And what's important about this new approach is it's far more concerted effort, and it's got time milestones within it. There's a real shift of effort and enthusiasm to make a real difference and to make it quickly. And you, as we have already heard, are going to be absolutely key part of that. And for me, the prospect of regenerating Scotland's nature is incredibly exciting, but it's also daunting. And it's even more daunting now than it was this time last year, or even before a certain date in January, because I feel we're in far more volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times. We hear far more voices now at home and abroad questioning the science of what we do and the value of what we do. We don't, because we are part of it. But if you listen out there, there are voices. And I don't think that's going to change soon. So I'm committed, and I hope we all are, but beyond that, we need to reinforce the case for change, not just for nature's sake, but the value for all citizens of nature restoration. And for me, always a good question to ask is, how will investment in catchments and fisheries management make Scotland and its people healthier, safer, and more prosperous, as well as halting the loss of biodiversity and making us more resilient to climate change? No small task. Before I delve into it, though, I do want to first pay tribute to what you have already achieved. You've been at this for decades, and you've made a real difference. Much of what you do is world-leading, so please thank you for all the work you've done far before my career even started to get us to where we are today. We are in a strong position. But first, I just want to step back a bit to reflect on why nature is important. And I know you know this, but it is good to remind ourselves. We heard from Dieter Helm earlier. I will be quoting a few other people that make similar points, but they're really strong points. And the first is the most recent. 2025, 2 months ago, January, the World Economic Forum, and I emphasize Economic Forum, published Global Risks Report. And that identifies biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse as the second most severe risk over the next 10 years. And that's a whole range of experts being canvassed. The most severe risk is extreme weather, driven by climate change, and obviously both are highly relevant to Scotland. I've actually got the whole list if anyone wants to ask me later, because it's fascinating reading. So what is at stake is not just nature as something wonderful something important in its own right. But as the Dasgupta report stated, and this was 2019, our economies, livelihood and well-being all depend on our most precious asset, nature. The review goes on. We are part of nature, not separate from it. We rely on nature to provide us with food, water and shelter, regulate our climate and disease, maintain nutrient cycles and oxygen production, and provide us with spiritual fulfillment and opportunities for recreation, recuperation, which can enhance our health and well-being. I don't know, but some of those phrases that you hear a lot, they've become kind of mantras almost. And elsewhere, the report noted, we've never had a better understanding of the state of nature and what is needed to fix it. So we know the stakes are high, and we also know much of what we need to do. So let's zero in on freshwater. The Scottish Biodiversity Delivery Plan is clear that we need to work at a catchment scale, and this aligns well with the government's own Scottish National Adaptation Plan 3 for climate mitigation. To this end, and a key action within that delivery plan, and perhaps one of its most ambitious, is to select and then align public support around 6 landscape-scale restoration projects. These are designed to build on the decades of work that you have already been delivering across Scotland and to supercharge it where the benefits are greatest and opportunities best aligned. These 6 large-scale regeneration projects, which we're working on at the moment, will provide a focused contribution to the government's 4 priorities. It's worth reiterating how they will contribute. First, we know that nature restoration can reduce child poverty in neighbouring communities through improved health outcomes and life chances. Second, we know that nature restoration can provide many jobs, and we've already heard of this today. We've heard about them in the fishery sector, but I also, for example, in the peatland restoration sector, where we've got jobs being created anywhere from skilled digger drivers, GIS technicians, ecologists. There's a whole new industry, and much of that in fragile communities. And as an aside, I often wonder, there's a huge export potential here for all of our restoration work. We are world leaders, not just in your sector, but right across the world, so right across different topics. Why aren't we selling more of that abroad? We'll maybe come to that later. And we also know that nature restoration can protect jobs, for example, through reduced flooding. It can help to de-risk investment and amplify the economic growth potential of areas benefiting from that restoration. And thirdly, these landscape-scale projects require effective partnership between the public sector, communities, and businesses. It requires the public sector, including myself, organisations such as SEPA, Scottish Water, local authorities, park authorities, and so on, to join up, one of the priorities of government. And fourthly, as the First Minister made clear in his speech at the Kibble Palace in Glasgow last month, the road to net zero must pass through nature recovery. And these 6 projects will make significant contributions to our carbon balance. And in so doing, these nature-rich catchments will strengthen communities and businesses in the face of severe climate change impacts. So the message here is clear. This is not just about climate and nature, important as they are, but it's also about improving our economy, the well-being of people, and using better public sector collaboration to support change. At Nature Scot, we use our leadership role to bring partners together and push for better collaboration. The 6 landscape-scale projects are one example of this leadership. Elsewhere, we invest tens of millions of pounds annually through schemes such as the Nature Restoration Fund, and many of you have benefited from that, the Scottish Marine Environment Enhancement Fund, which I call SMEF from now on, and Peatland Action. All these are about improving the state of our natural capital, the assets on which our communities and many of our businesses rely. So moving now to fish, and I do some trepidation, not being a fish person. We all know the importance of catchment scale restoration to secure the future of wild salmon and other species. So I'm pleased that in the 136 actions in the Biodiversity Delivery Plan, we've included the Wild Atlantic Salmon Strategy, research on migration routes, along with river basin management planning, the control of invasive non-natives, adaptive approaches to water abstraction, and investment in wastewater treatment. Obviously, many of these actions are already well underway, though some, like the supercharging of 6 catchment projects, are new. But what I want to underline is that the strength of this delivery plan is not only in the breadth of its ambition, but it's also in bringing all of these different actions together. It's really important that we don't do this one at a time. We have to see the entirety, because it's the links between those actions which will give this greater strength. As the First Minister said, underpinning the actions in the delivery plan is a commitment to innovation through new nature-related legislation. And I think the important point to draw out here is that targets in themselves are not new, but legally binding targets for nature will be new, and hopefully will do for biodiversity what they have done for reducing carbon emissions. And why they're so important for us in the public sector is that once you have statutory targets, you'd be amazed how quickly that drives change. It's a really helpful binding force within government. So, as I've already said, I'm really grateful for all your contributions towards this national programme of nature renewal. And I know you're going to hear much more about this today, but I just wanted to pick out a few of my own examples to add to those you've already heard. So through Peatland Action, the Loch Harbour Fisheries Trust hosts project officers to deliver large-scale peatland action. Through SMEF, that Marine Enhancement Fund I mentioned, we recently confirmed the latest seagrass restoration funding, which include an exciting project from the Westeros Fisheries Trust. And we've worked together with you to develop the new Catchment and River Restoration Fund, which we're keen to open this year. And this will be one of the developments from the, sorry, another acronym coming up, the Facility for Investment Ready Nature in Scotland, FERNS. And what's really exciting is that will work with SMEF, Smerns and Fief, and these will join up across our landscape. So we'll do from source to sea, linking both marine health and the health of river catchments. And I'm also delighted at the ambitious work that you're all engaged in to develop a portfolio of investment opportunities for new work, including innovative ways to secure private investment. And I would echo, there's plenty of money out there. The hard bit is to attract it, but there are so many folk out there now more willing to invest than previously. And we're absolutely delighted to support all these ambitions. So just putting together my thoughts on creating a nature-rich future for all, there's 3 things I think I wanted to emphasize. Restoring nature is a national task. Obviously, no one organisation can do it together, so let's continue to work together. Second, we need to act quicker. Dieter Helm will tell you this, the longer we delay, the more expensive, difficult and risky it becomes to get back on track. And thirdly, back to where I started, we really need to counter those voices that think this work is not important. I can't believe that, I'm sure you can't, but there are. And it matters to us, and we need to show those wider benefits. Nature works hard for us already. It can deliver more, but only if it's in good condition. So, finally, on the themes of working together, working quicker, and communicating the benefits of what we do, I'll close with an invitation. What could Nature Scot, the organisation I currently lead, do differently and better to support you in your quest for nature restoration? Let me know, now-ish, or I'm here over lunch, or any time after that. Thank you.